Hello, my name is Claudia Panisello. I'm going to participate in the 11th Annual International Conference on Humanities and Arts in a Global World. The title is Aesthetics of Fantastic in Pan's Labyrinth. The work addresses the analysis of aesthetics in Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth, a 2016 film in which the fantastic genre predominates. The intervention of the fantastic causes the rupture of the mimesis of the real to allow the assimilation of diverse alternatives, generating in the receiver of the work a pigma flow. Development. The structure of the plot and composition of the story, which revolved around the presence of two fictional levels, one related to the events of the characters in the mimesis context of the historical, and second fictional level related to the fantastic, producing an understanding of the metaphysical reality of the film. The intervention of the fantastic caused a rupture of the mimesis of the real to allow the assimilation of diverse alternatives generated in the recipient of the work a pigma flow. Pigma for its acronym perception, emotion, cognition, and motor action, term of Towell Grodals that says, I open quotations, model the flow of perception, emotion, cognition, and motor action. He defines that the flow is that the experiences we have into audiovisual experiences. From the point of view of the receiver of the film, there is a comprehension of the two fictional levels, one that would be mimesis of reality, another that would be relative to the fantastic, producing an understanding of the metaphysical reality of the film. These categories are those that are put into operation when being in contact with the audiovisual medium. Contemplation requires the attention of the visual sense, which brings the images to the brain. Likewise, through hearing, you can hear what is being transmitted and also incorporated auditory image at cognitive level, as the cited author points out. When I watch our movie, our hearts beat harder, we receive an increase of alternative levels and muscle tense. Find quotations of Conde. According to David Roas, the fantastic problematizes the limits between reality and unreality of fictions. These two levels are those that are put into operation within contact to the audiovisual medium. In this case, not only the visualization of the pan, but all the elements that corresponds to the fantastic generate an estrangement, a perception of the strange, the ominous meaning of Ophelia escapes to another world. Here is Ophelia reading. Here is the girl. The grasshoppers that turns into a fairy. The fairy then is the one who guides her like a reaper on the journey of her life and the metaphysical destiny of her life towards the labyrinth. Ophelia enters the maze and first time, following the grasshopper who later turns into a fairy. In a way, she's entering a deeper meaning of her life linked to a metaphysical reality that transcends it. That is, Ophelia, by being linked to the past she finds in the labyrinth, become linked to a secondary fictional reality which invades and permeates her life. She is going to follow the directives that the faun gives her, and by fulfilling them, she will accomplish that what she had to do to become the princess again in a different reality, which is the one shown on the end of the film. In that secondary fictional reality, she was the daughter of a king and she had left the labyrinth long ago in another life. Supposedly, the father would have created that reality in which she dies and she would be back with her original family. The audiovisual experience we have at the moment then influence our emotional and seeking system influencing our emotions. There has been an introspection of the audiovisual. The viewer sees the fairy who guides the girl towards the labyrinth, then the faun who is in the labyrinth and who is going to entrust her with three tasks as a sub goal to reach the final goal of becoming queen of that fantastic girl. She has the complicity of the housekeeper, the wisdom of Ophelia, who lives in two different fictional realities. Ophelia's entry into the labyrinth. Ophelia looking at the sage. The faun who comes into action when Ophelia enters the labyrinth, which remains in a fictional reality secondary to the main reality of the film, since it is only seen by Ophelia, even at the end when the captain chases her through the labyrinth. When he looks at her, the girl is seen in full shot with a baby in her arms, speaking towards nothing less. Therefore, the fictional levels in these films do not intersect, but are only valid for Ophelia throughout the entire film. This secondary level, when the faun is give Ophelia's action meaning. The faun, which from a mythological point of view, according to Pierre Grimal's Dictionary of Greek and Roman Mythology, is, open quotations, faun seems to have been a variation to Roman god whose cult was located in the Palatine itself or in its immediate surroundings. Because of his name, he appears as a beneficent, favorable god, protector, particularly of flocks and shepherds. Sometimes he is considered the son of Zeus and Jupiter. Final quotations. In this work, Ophelia is prevented from entering the labyrinth by Mercedes, the person in charge of the establishment where the captain and the family are. This character warns her that in the labyrinth she can get lost, which is what finally happens to Ophelia, not because she has been lost in a literal sense, but because that the secondary fictional world where the faun lives in the other is the one that will gain space in the action of primary fictional reality. The faun gives her the book of Crossroads, which the book with white page in which the letters and actions will be drawn by every time Ophelia opens it. The presence of the book is associated with the wisdom. In this sense, Ophelia's wisdom is related to a comprehension of her being in a metaphysical perspective that goes not follow her primary cultural construction, but rather is directed towards a departure from what is expected of the character with an attitudinal behavior linked to the role. Sheila Benevieve, in situating the self, determines the attitudinal essence of woman in relation to the Hegelian philosophy, the being with its essence and determinations, but without the consciousness of her as opportunity of being in her. Judith Butler in Undoing Gender refers to what the imposition of feminine culture reconstruction means. Ophelia's wisdom is linked to being herself, since that she seeks its interior and lives that secondary fictional reality in a transcendent sense. Her attitude is that of a subject woman, since she carries out the actions being true to herself in an intelligent and wise way. The Pan assigned her a series of instructions to verify the purity of the essence. The first is to put 3 stones on the thought that lives under the ancient tree. the entrance to the tree and the challenge of giving the stones to the giant thought. Here, Ophelia and the thought, the disintegration of the thought. Ophelia in the primary fictional reality was freshly bathed and dressed in a beautiful dark green dress and patent leather shoes. There was an important dinner at home and she had to be like a princess, in the word of her mother. Ophelia evades the dinner commitment and has no problem, no qualms about entering through a hole in the old tree and going in to find the giant thought to put the 3 stones in it. Only in this way will be the tree bloom again, the pan had told her. The name Ophelia itself, according to the onomatological dictionary, means she who helps. The thought also has a special symbology. It is the inverse and infernal aspect of the frog, therefore the same symbolic meanings corresponds to it, but in a negative aspect. Esoteric doctrines express this with their usual terminology, saying there are also animals whose mission is none other than to break the astral light by an absorption that is peculiar to them. That is the quotation of Silhouette Dictionary. It is very significant that Ophelia is the one who puts the 3 stones in the giant false man's, causing his death, because according to the symbology explains, it would be the inverse of the transformation of the princess into a frog. In this film, the opposite happens. It is Ophelia who kills the thought and annihilates evil, who breaks the astral light, and in this sense, Ophelia long means as contemplation of the thought and vice versa is significant. The second task that Ophelia has to do is to draw a door on the wall of the room with chalk. Magically, the door opens and takes her through a passage to another strange room where she finds a monster even more terrifying than the faun. Here is Ophelia in the Labyrinth representing the faun and the baby. Here is the pan talking to Ophelia. The explanation of the procedure to enter the place where she will find the key. And the straight eyeless monster. He is asleep and sitting at the head of the faun, a long table that offers a banquet of food and various fruits. Ophelia is told not to be able to eat anything from that table because her life is going away, quoting the faun's words. Ophelia is accompanied by a small wooden box with 3 fairies and goes behind the monster, who remains asleep. She wisely inserted keys in a correct small door, which she has chosen from 3, which is the one to the left of the viewer, who is struck by all the symbolic elements contemplated in the film. She managed to open the small door and take out a sword from the inside, which was the order dictated by the Book of Crossroads. She heads toward the exit, but it tempted by some grapes from the long blank banquet table, and that causes the eyeless monster to wake up. This monster places the eyes and where on his plate in his hands and places those hands with eyes at the level where the eyes should be. The eyes on a symbolic level are associated with the sun, intelligence, and understanding. Here is the temptation of Ophelia eating the grapes and the monster awaking, and here the monster chasing Ophelia. Ophelia was able to help save herself. Here is Mercedes with her brother taking the kids in the primary reality of Ophelia. And The third test is associated with the brother, and when her mother dies, she must flee the place. It is noteworthy that at one point, when the baby was still in the mother's womb, Ophelia speaks to her brother and promises to take him to her kingdom and that she will make him a prince. However, when she ultimately has to give up the blood of an innocent in the faun's word, Ophelia does not give up her brother. It is then that the captain comes, see her talking to herself. Here we see that the captain sees the secondary fictional reality only existed for Ophelia. In that moment, she was talking to the pan. Here, Ophelia didn't want to give her brother to the captain. In the primary fictional reality, Captain Vidal, upon leaving the Labyrinth with his son and her sons, see that the rebels are waiting for him, and by handing over her son, and they end his life. Here, the captain take the baby and killed Ophelia. And here the captain gives his son to the housekeeper before they kill him. Mercedes contemplates her death with blood dripping onto the water mirror where the full moon is reflected. Meanwhile, in the second fictional plane, the girl arrives at her father's kingdom and not only finds him, but also her deceased mother. Here is the end in the secondary fictional reality and the end in the first fictional reality. Conclusion. The contribution made by this analysis is an approach to the perceptual process within the film and its relationship with the fantastic. The intervention of the fantastic causes the rupture of the real mimesis, where fantasy allows transgressing the limits of their understanding of the real and generates a character with unusual metaphysical projections. The viewer perception has been the detail when contemplating a film which incorporates through the comprehension of the film a new exemplary construction of the feminine being, the perception of a girl who has enough courage and wisdom to pass the various initiatory tests which lead her to become a new model of woman. The wisdom of Ophelia, who, since she was a child, has been investigative, creative, and wise, could constitute a symbol of a new form of a cultural construction of the female gender. The paradigmatic rupture of the constitution of the character of Ophelia, of course, proposing a different attitude of the woman with respect to the paradigm. The girls are not to act passively and in imitation of the previous model as a legacy of feminine passivity, but acts in a relation to different motives which linked her to the fantastic metaphysical past. The primary fictional reality is of lesser importance for Ophelia, since for her the secondary fictional reality, who the pan lives, is what gives meaning to her actions. The rupture of the mimesis of the cruel reality that the girl is experiencing at the same time grants her liberation and generates unusual projections at the film level linked to the fantastic. The legitimization of the feminine and its action, in contrast to what is established, has occurred. The dirty dress and the painted leather shoes were making the first steps in relation to the thought, has established the paradigms of the traditional feminine. The figure of the princess is deconstructed, as noted in the development, to transform into the wisdom of the 13-year-old girl who through the actions of the work, achieves an insight into the deep meaning of her being. Through the intervention of the fantastic, Ophelia's freedom is also significant as she lives an adventure in the middle of the civil war, which in a way leads to the escape from the difficult circumstances in which she finds herself. That freedom constitutes and transforms her since elevates her to that secondary fictional reality and to a reign of many years. The recipient of the work grows in a contemplation of these films if he or she manages to understand the symbolic meaning of Ophelia's wisdom. Thank you very much.